My name is Bertha Beaudreau, and I am a social studies teacher at Central High School, and I have taught multicultural studies for about 15 years. Actually, that goes for me, being a white person, how did I begin to understand Black culture was from kindergarten. My best friend was a Native American, half Black young girl, and she was constantly made fun of in school, not necessarily because of her color. She was just a lot taller than the rest of us, and she wore some Indian regalia every now and then, and that's what people consider different. So I grew up always finding culture very interesting. Now, as far as African American, to me, that all, like, where did slavery come from? That's where those questions came from. And I realized that, and I read somewhere, that race, as far as people being Black and being slaves, that didn't happen until the slave trade from Africa started coming over, and the slaves happened to be Black because of where they were from. And suddenly, just because that's how it went, it just slowly turned into, if you were Black, you were a slave. Because the Native American Indians, they tended to run away because they knew the land. Africans brought here from Africa didn't know the land, so it was easy to oppress them. And the color just started happening because that was the influx of most slaves. Now, Americans tend to think of race as a color of skin, where race is actually a concept of where people are from. And it's turned into a color concept because of the slave trade. And because race never had a color before. It was just, for example, there was a book that was just written about French Canadians and how they're a race apart from Canadians and from the French. And that's one half of my history, and it was just really incredible to look at it as a race, because it was a different group of people that had different ways of thinking, different ways of dress, different kinds of food, but they were still white. So that's why, to me, race isn't usually a color thing, although it has become a hot point in the United States based on Black and white. Now, I would never say that I could speak as a Black person or for Black people. I'm just someone who might be able to say to a Black person, let people know, what you're actually angry about. Don't placate the audience. But like, sometimes comedians do this. Sometimes you can learn a lot about Black culture listening to Black comedians, like Eddie Murphy or Chris Rock or Kevin Hart, because there's definitely a difference, but it doesn't make us opposites. We're helping understand each other's experience. And Obama gave a great speech about that, about how Black people do have different experiences than white people. That doesn't make us less than each other, it just makes us more interesting. The Multicultural Studies class that I managed to put together was based on my study of cultural anthropology at URI. And for me, the whole point of multicultural studies education was to have students understand the person sitting next to them, or the new student who comes in wearing a hijab, which many Arab students wear when they come to our country, because that's part of their culture. And but the first thing about multicultural studies, which I had to lay the foundation because I truly believed in it, was to start with exercises that let the students understand who they are personally. In my opinion, in order to close the racial divide that exists in the world, it boils down to understanding. It really does. It boils down to understanding and accepting the fact that no one is better than anyone else. Everyone just has a different way of life. Eventually, we'd at least have to start looking at each other with equality. It doesn't mean you have to love the other, but you have to be equal and fair.